Emi Tanaka, a physicist, loved old things. She loved the smell of old books, the feel of aged wood, the whispers of the past. One rainy afternoon, she found herself in the attic of her grandmother's house. The attic was a treasure trove of forgotten memories. Dust-covered trunks lined the walls, filled with relics from a bygone era. Cobwebs draped from the rafters, and the air hung heavy with the scent of time. Emi brushed away the cobwebs from a particularly ornate trunk. It was crafted from dark wood, its surface adorned with intricate carvings. She lifted the heavy lid, her heart pounding with anticipation. The trunk was filled with yellowed parchment, leather-bound journals, and strange, intricate gadgets. At the very bottom, she found a small velvet pouch. Inside, nestled amongst soft velvet, lay a tarnished silver locket. It was cold to the touch, sending a shiver down Emi's spine. As she opened the locket, a small, faded photograph slipped out. The photograph was of a young woman in a Victorian dress. She had a determined look and piercing blue eyes. On the back, in elegant script, was a name, Victoria Carlyle. Beneath, a line hinted at a mystery. Find my message, heir of my mind. Could Victoria have invented a way to travel through time? The idea was absurd, yet her gaze filled Emi with certainty. Behind journals, she found a hidden compartment. Inside lay a small, leather-bound book. The first entry sent a chill down her spine. The diary detailed Victoria's groundbreaking research on temporal mechanics. She had theorized the existence of what she called chronal vortices, ripples in the fabric of time that could be manipulated for temporal displacement. Emi spent weeks poring over Victoria's notes, her mind struggling to grasp the complex equations and diagrams. Victoria had even included blueprints for a device she called the chronodisplacer, a machine capable of harnessing the power of the chronal vortices. The blueprints were incredibly detailed, but many of the components were unfamiliar to Emi. They seemed to defy the known laws of physics. Despite the challenges, Emi felt an undeniable pull towards the project. The more she learned about Victoria, the more she felt a kinship with this brilliant woman from the past. Their shared passion for science transcended time itself. Emi spent months scouring antique shops and online auctions, searching for the rare materials and components Victoria's blueprints called for. She consulted with experts in fields ranging from quantum physics to antique clockmaking, piecing together the puzzle of the chronodisplacer. The work was grueling, requiring all of Emi's scientific knowledge and ingenuity. There were times when she doubted herself, times when she was ready to give up. But the thought of Victoria, her message echoing across time, kept her going. One by one, she managed to acquire or recreate the necessary parts. She fashioned delicate glass tubes filled with glowing gases, crafted intricate gears from polished brass, and assembled circuits on boards of aged mahogany. The air in her workshop crackled with energy. Finally, after months of tireless work, the chronodisplacer was complete. It stood in the center of her workshop, a gleaming testament to Victoria's genius and Emi's own determination. The device resembled a giant gyroscope with spinning rings of copper and brass and a central chamber that pulsed with an eerie blue light. Emi took a deep breath, her heart pounding. This was it, the moment of truth. She double-checked the calculations one last time, her fingers trembling slightly. Then, with a mix of trepidation and exhilaration, she activated the chronodisplacer. The machine hummed to life, the spinning rings accelerating, the blue light intensifying. The air grew heavy, charged with static electricity. Emi stepped into the central chamber, clutching Victoria's diary to her chest. As the chronodisplacer reached its peak, a blinding flash of light engulfed her. Time seemed to twist and fold around Emi. She felt a sensation of falling, of being pulled through a swirling vortex of colours and light. Images flashed before her eyes, clocks melting, landscapes blurring, faces appearing and disappearing in an instant. The air crackled with energy, and a strange humming filled her ears. Then, as suddenly as it began, the journey ended. The blinding light faded and the humming subsided. Emi found herself standing on solid ground, the air around her still and silent. She cautiously stepped out of the chronodisplacer, her legs feeling shaky. The first thing that struck her was the air. It was heavy with the scent of coal smoke and damp earth, a stark contrast to the clean air of her own time. She looked around, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. She stood on a cobblestone street, illuminated by flickering gaslights. Buildings of dark brick towered above her, their windows glowing with warm, inviting light. Carriages drawn by horses clattered over the cobblestones, their drivers shouting to one another in thick accents. The air was abuzz with the sounds of the city hawkers calling out their wares, children laughing, horses' hooves echoing on the stone. People in long coats and dresses bustled past, their faces a mixture of curiosity and indifference. Newsboys darted through the crowds, shouting headlines about the latest political scandal. The sights and sounds of Victorian London washed over Emi, a symphony of chaos and wonder. It was overwhelming, exhilarating, and a little bit frightening. Emi felt a thrill course through her. She had done it. She had travelled through time. Clutching Victoria's diary, Emi navigated the crowded streets. She was searching for any clue that might lead her to Victoria, to the woman who had, in a way, become her guide through time. The address in the diary led her to a grand house in a quieter part of the city. As she approached the house, she noticed a woman standing on the front steps. The woman was older now, her hair streaked with grey, but her eyes were the same piercing blue as in the photograph. She held a silver locket in her hand, her expression a mixture of hope and disbelief. Emi's heart skipped a beat. Could this be Victoria? She took a step forward, her voice catching in her throat. "Excuse me," she began. "Are you—" But before she could finish the sentence, the woman looked up. Their eyes met, and in that instant, across the gulf of time, a spark of recognition passed between them. "You must be Emily," Victoria said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I knew you would come." Tears welled up in her eyes, a mixture of joy and relief. "My message! You received it?" Emi nodded, her own eyes shining with tears. "Yes," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, Victoria, I found it." She held up the worn, leather-bound diary. "And I understand." Victoria smiled, a radiant smile that lit up her face, erasing the years of waiting and uncertainty. "Come, Emily," she said, taking Emi's hand and leading her into the house. "We have so much to talk about." As they stepped inside, the door closing softly behind them, Emi knew that this was only the beginning. Their journey through time had just begun, a journey of shared passion, scientific discovery, and a bond that transcended the boundaries of time itself.